Solo Leveling was pretty good, but what if I told you that there are way better webtoons and manhwa out there? Don't believe me? Just see for yourself. Starting off with an absolute classic, it definitely has to be Omniscient Reader's viewpoint. It follows the story of Kim Dokja, an ordinary office worker who happens to be the only one to ever finish reading 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, aka Twosa. Yeah, I don't know why it's called that. One day, Twosa Afric becomes reality. Monsters appear out of thin air, and humanity has to complete quests known as scenarios in order to survive. They're thrown into a reverse isekai with a game-like system and minimal plot armor to boot, all for the amusement of otherworldly beings. However, even the overseers and watchers of the game are unaware of Dr. Kim's hidden knowledge, his omniscience, if you will. Anyways, he possesses knowledge on future events no one else knows, and he utilizes it in order to shape the future into a story he wishes to read. As the plot progresses, Dokja begins to notice that things aren't playing out like they did in the original story. The changes he's made have had an enormous impact on not only the world, but also the characters. Junghyuk Yu, the main character of Twosa, was a stoic, jaded regressor who became numb to emotions after resetting his life so many times. He'd regress and go back to the start of the scenarios at the slightest inconvenience, until Dokja showed him that each life was precious and that he shouldn't give up at a moment's notice, but rather to fight on, something even Junghyuk's closest companions can do after 1,000 years. The reason for this is because Dokja knows these people better than they know themselves. When he was in a dark and lonely place, they were his light, and now it's his turn to be their light. Not just for Junghyuk and the other characters of Twosa, but for other people he's also met on his journey. Later on, Dokja receives a first edit from the author of Twosa, and it shows based on how the current timeline is going, after Dokja has made so many changes, Junghyuk will regress, but this time, he's taken Dokja's words to heart, and is much more hesitant to give up each life and regress, giving it his all till his dying breath. Imagine Sung Jin-woo and Gojo fused together to create the ultimate specimen, and then became trapped in the body of a fat cat. And now it's your job to take care of said fat cat. That pretty much sums up the plot of Eleceed. Jiwoo Seo is a shy yet kind boy with a particular fondness for cats. He struggles to make friends in school, his father's missing, and his mom's abroad most of the time, which is likely why he surrounds himself with so many cats. One day, he stumbles upon an injured cat with severe obesity, Aiden Break, potentially the strongest awakened in the world, who decides to train Jiwoo as he's plunged into a world of the awakened. He hasn't received any training compared to the other awakened his age, who all developed their powers and began training at a young age. However, Kaden, otherwise known as Caffeine Nitrate in his cat form, takes it upon himself to train this kind-hearted boy, something incredibly rare among the awakened. Despite his cold exterior, Jiwoo begins to rub off on Kaden, and he also works diligently alongside his monstrous potential, talent, and the strongest teacher, resulting in non-stop arcs of elites in the awakened world underestimating Jiwoo, only for him to absolutely humiliate humble them, respectfully, of course. It's also very introspective on its implications throughout the awakened world, with Kaden being at the forefront. It delves deep into the consequences of Jiwoo being Kaden's student, with Jiwoo constantly getting kidnapped due to him being Kaden's pupil. After a lifetime spent alone with his cats, his kindness shines through a cold, cutting world and touches the hearts of many, even the ruthless, battle-hungry Kaden Break, the emotionless machine Wooin, and even the typical run-of-the-mill jock Jisuk, and how his kindness can pierce through even the toughest of exteriors. Overall, a solid read, and even though it doesn't touch upon the world building all too much, yet, it's a super enjoyable and satisfying read, and also, he pulls the baddest, most attractive woman in the series, being Jisuk's sister. Oh boy, this is gonna be a wild one. Lookism starts off with this massive loser, in more ways than one, named Daniel Park. Yeah, did I mention he was massive and a loser? Because he is in fact both of those things, especially the first one. And what makes him such a massive loser isn't the fact that he gets bullied every day, but that he would get mad at his mom for sticking up for him in front of his bullies. Despite how poor his family was, his mom somehow saved up enough to send Daniel to study in another city. It's good to see him grow up to be far more kind-hearted to his mother afterwards, and he even looks up to his cousins. For some reason, Upon arriving in Seoul, he's given a second body, through which he's able to switch between his old, fat body and his new, attractive one. The series navigates through the complexities of how modern society treats and judges other people based on their physical appearances. That lookism, if you will. Wait, I feel like I made this joke already. And my goodness, PTJ is an absolute mad lad of an author. By far one of the most talented authors whose works I've ever had the pleasure of reading. He's produced countless bangers, many of which are incredibly popular throughout the Webtoon community, such as Viral Hit, My Life as a Loser, and many more. I've personally never been a big fan of horror, but Tales of Greed was actually just such a gripping read. The same can be said for many others. His style of slapstick comedy with just the most serious expressions translates so incredibly well through both the medium and the languages. But the reason I put Lookism on this list isn't for any of the previous reasons. By chapter 177, Lookism takes a complete 180 and becomes what the fandom unofficially dubs Gangism. Though it's debated which chapter exactly Lookism turned into Gangism, that's not important. What is important is that Lookism takes a radical shift and transforms into something completely different. A once compelling narrative on society and Lookism has turned into dudes beating up bigger dudes. And it is, like, no joke, it is absolutely phenomenal. All the previously set up characters come together to form a whole new world. Generations of fighters passing down their power and knowledge, and you see different characters with different abilities come to form connections and rivalries, sometimes between characters you'd never expect. Each character has different motivations, backstories, and relations, which all tie together to weave an epic tale, as Daniel and friends fight their way through the underground and find the secret behind his two bodies, as well as many other secrets to uncover. Okay, picture this. You're just some rich kid wandering the street. It's 2014 and TikTok doesn't exist yet, and boom, you look up at the top of the hill and you see some Asian kids start hurtling down at Mach speed and then proceed to drift down the bottom of the hill on his bike, all while aura farming and mocking everyone else, including you, which is why you steal his goal, but that's not important. And that is how Minu, the rich kid, met Jaejo, a nerd who kinda likes the bike, and how the two of them would go on to form one of the greatest bike crews, not just in Korea, but in the entire world. They'll go on to recruit powerhouses like Dom and Vinny, and compete against world-level cyclists, take down shadow organizations that may or may not have killed Jay's uncle, and Vinny leaves the crew in order to pay for his mom's hospital bills. It's awesome to see a wide variety of different characters who grow alongside each other, with their own specialties and abilities, all come to compete in an epic tournament, and how something as simple as biking has the ability to change their lives completely. Jay would be stuck studying away for the rest of his life, unable to find what he's passionate about, and also unable to resolve his uncle's death. Kelly would have had to leave her friends and go back to England. Dom would have joined his father's gang and been a lazy, lowly, unmotivated bum, but instead found his spark by pushing himself to his limits and forming a close bond with Jay. Vinny wouldn't have been able to pay for his mom's medical fees. Minu, we'd probably not have been disabled actually. Maybe this was better for him. But as for June, actually nah, June would have been pretty much the same, except for the fact that he's a senior and he's about to graduate. I'd be sad if he didn't go to nationals right before he graduated. But yeah, if you like Haikyuu, Blue Lock, Slam Dunk, or even any major shonen, this is the manhwa for you. This webtoon has completely changed my outlook on biking. It actually motivated me to start biking again when I first read it, much like how a lot of other sports anime do the same. I know it's cheesy, cliche, and overdone, but it's so cool to see how something as simple as biking could impact the lives of so many people, and how the author is able to make something as mundane as biking to be such a thrilling, jaw-clenching experience, with each chapter leaving you at the edge of your seat. In conclusion, yeah, while solo leveling isn't a dime a dozen thanks to its art, there are so many other awesome webtoons out there to discover. And while there's quite a few copycats, these are by far some of the best ones in the genre. With that being said, I've been Hardcore, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!